The next garden on our tour is the Stumbo Garden. Jim Stumbo and friend Barbara are enjoying their hillside garden in Ashland. About 3 years ago, the back part of the garden was a weedy hillside with a couple of Oregon ash trees and a seasonal stream. In 2018, Jim started to develop the landscape. He says that since boyhood, he has had a love of butterflies, especially monarchs. His first goal was to plant several varieties of milkweed to attract butterflies. When working with a designer, he began to create paths and a seating area. Native plants were planted on the hillside along the stream and are beginning to grow in. Welcome to the garden.
Good morning. My name is Janine Salvati. I'm a member of the Jackson County Master Gardener Association here in Southern Oregon. Today we're with Jim Stumbo and Barbara Featherstone, and we're going to view their beautiful and inspired garden. Jim, can you tell us a little bit about your motivation for embracing native plants and pollinating plants?
Well, we encapsulate 70 years into 70 seconds. I grew up on an Iowa farm. Des Moines River boundary did lush milkweeds, and in the summer, at the height of their glory, here were monarch butterflies. And even as a boy who liked to play baseball and tend sheep, I was just enraptured with them. They just were graceful in beauty. Fast forward, I'm married happily, 2 young adult daughters. We decided to commit ourselves to go to Mexico, saw the butterfly preserve, and I was overtaken just like a cluster of bananas before the sun warmed them up, just hanging there. I was just staggered in awe. And then as the sun came and they became to life, and I just started weeping out of rapture and gratitude, but also weeping out of what I and human civilization is doing to them. And so I was like repenting. Then fast forward again, when I moved here, I found Sherry Morgan as a resource. We went out on the deck, which at that point overlooked, then it was grass and weeds, the whole area.
Oh gosh.
And she came out and she said, "So Jim, what do you see there?" And I said, "I see color and wild and butterflies." She said, "We call that a pollinator garden."
Oh.
And that's how we launched.
Barbara, I know that you're also an avid gardener. What do you love about gardening in this space?
Well, there's so many things I'm grateful for, gardening in general, but in particularly the space. Well, for one thing, there's exercise every day right in the backyard,
Yes.
Which is not a bad idea. But I think that what's most meaningful for me is that this garden has the intention of expressing and nurturing both nature and spirituality.
I'd like to introduce you now to the third member of today's gardening team. This is Kimberly Brown. She is the gardening coach to Jim and Barbara. She advises them on plant selections, on garden maintenance, future development of the gardens. And this is my first encounter with a garden coach, and I wish I had one. So Kimberly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I work here with Jim and Barbara, and I've been coming here for a year, and I love sharing time together in the garden, and I'm teaching you and guiding you, and we're loving this space together. Did this map because the original map we had a lot of casualties, a lot of plants died. And now there have been some that have been replaced and new plants put in, and it isn't all natives, but this is now accurate.
Kimberly, could you lead us to a few of your favorite plants?
Sure. Its Latin name is Linneum lewisii, and I've been wondering about lewisii because there's a lot of plants that say lewisii on them. But it's the thing that's creating the most color right now besides the California poppies, and they combine really well color-wise.
That's a gorgeous
And there's
color
these
combination.
beautiful little centers. If I was a bee, I would really like to nectar with that.
And has this been also a native?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
So we're gonna visit the manzanita, and this variety is the Howard McMinn. And a couple weeks ago it was in its glory, and so the flowers are past, but it still has these beautiful red twigs. And what I love about this plant is its Latin name means little apple, and knowing that it's in the apple family is fun for me. And it doesn't like water, which is really important in this landscape. You can actually kill manzanitas by watering them too much. There's several of them in the garden, and they're beautiful in the winter, they're beautiful in the fall. They're just, they don't lose their leaves, which is lovely. And I always combine these with the ceanothus, which is also already finished blooming, but it's an amazing plant and also doesn't like a lot of water. And I've seen ceanothus actually get killed by having too much water, and as we face drought as a possible future climate for us, both of these plants are really great for drought conditions, and they combine really well together. And if you go hiking, you see these together in the landscape, and I always like that in a garden design, to put things next to each other that combine naturally.
What is the plant behind you, Kimberly?
This one
Yes.
is ribes, and this is also past its flowering time. I don't know if you can see this right here. It's still flowering a little bit, but it was covered with bees a couple weeks ago, and it blooms for a long time. I have seen this plant on hiking trails in the woods, and it's really fun to come upon it in its natural landscape. I'm noticing on well, actually right here, there's little tiny berries. This is a currant. It's red flowering currant, and it actually makes fruit, which is really good for the birds in the fall. Lovely plant.
This is a very small version of milkweed compared to mature along the Des Moines River, but it's a beginning, and it's probably my favorite place because it speaks of calling to monarchs. So we've got that growing, and as Kimberly has taught me, it really does not like water, which again fits into probably our future. And this area basically is going to be kind of the milkweed center of the garden with its proximity to the stream. You want to add anything, Kimberly?
Sure. When I first came here, this grass right here was about this high through this whole area. And
Yes.
we pulled it all out. It took a really long time, and Jim thought that the milkweed was gone. And he purchased some milkweed from me. And I was planting it, and I saw all this milkweed growing and sprouting back up. So I can't actually tell the difference between what I planted and what was already here. So I was really happy to see that it had survived. This is polydiscus discolor. It's also called ocean spray. And what I love about this plant is I see it on really rocky outcroppings, just the harshest conditions, providing these creamy white flowers. And it also, I see it at the coast sometimes too. It seems like it's adaptable to a lot of different regions. The flowers are amazing, but the leaves are just this beautiful crinkle color. But if you're looking for a plant that can really handle tough conditions, ocean spray is really good. Western sword ferns, and they have these amazing little curlicues, and you see those in the woods as well. Right now there's spores on the bottom of the leaves, and that's how they reproduce themselves. I've always loved that about ferns.
Well, Jim and Barbara, we are at the end of our tour of your inspiring space. Do you have a favorite place in this garden?
Well, Probably the one that I spend most time on is on my knees, weeding. I don't know that I'd call that my favorite. So there are two. The milkweed area has promise, potential. I very much cherish that. And then the pond has grown to be a very favorite spot because we sat out here in the rain once with raincoats, and the stream was gushing and the waterfall was going, and it was quite an acoustical and visual delight. But in other times it's just very peaceful, like in the morning to come out here with our tea and coffee and just sit and take in the beauty, be held in it. So this is a favorite spot for me.
And Barbara? Well, it does depend upon the time of day and the season, but because of the way the sun moves, that this is a wonderful place after about 10 o'clock in the morning at this time of year, because there's such a wonderful view across the valley, and there's the perspective of something that we're looking out on, but also the sense of this little contained area. So this is a very peaceful place. I love sitting here. I love it that it changes all the time. When the rainstorm is gushing, and then now it's very quiet.